we have Europe's Cataclysm, the 30-Year War by Epic History. Something that I feel like I've seen referenced a lot in different videos, but I've never actually watched a video about it. I know about the 100-Year War, obviously, but this one, I generally don't really know what happens. I think, if I'm not wrong, is it the war where Frederick the Great is doing stuff? Maybe. Like, I think this is before. Like, this is in the 1700s, like before the Napoleonic War, right? Or is it further than that? I don't know. Let's learn. Epic History is peak, as always, so let's learn.
1618. Europe stands on the cusp of the most destructive war
1618,
in its history.
okay, I was wrong.
A 30-year-long cataclysm that will engulf the continent. Rape, slaughter, and rumors of cannibalism will haunt the land. War, starvation, and plague will decimate whole populations. Men, women, children, soldiers and civilians. No one will be spared. In a conflict that still casts a long shadow across European history to the modern day.
And I feel bad I don't know about it.
This video is sponsored by Europa Universalis 5, the new grand strategy game from Paradox that puts you in the driving seat of European history.
I've never played this kind of game.
Music and artwork from the game to reconstruct one of history's most complex and devastating conflicts.
They used to do that back in the day, the Alexander the Great videos. They used, I think, Total War footage. I have seen more corpses than living men, more ruined houses than standing one, more places desolate than inhabited. Johann von Grimmelschausen, Simplicius, Simplicissimus, 68. Yeah, no, okay. I probably know nothing about it, because again, I thought this was like 100 years later.
A 100 years after the Protestant Reformation split Christianity into rival camps, Europe is bitterly divided. Many northern rulers have embraced the Protestant teachings inspired by Martin Luther. In the south, most remain solidly Catholic and loyal to the Pope in Rome. Suspicion, unrest, and sectarian violence spread like a virus. In England and Scotland, Protestant King James fears a Catholic resurgence. In France, Catholic authorities are nervous about Protestant subversion. The Protestant Dutch fight desperately for independence from Catholic Spain.
80-year war. Damn.
But the divisions run deepest in the Holy Roman Empire. This is not a unified realm, but a patchwork of kingdoms, principalities, and duchies, many of which will one day form the modern state of Germany.
I love this old, like,
Voltaire later
artist design.
it was neither holy, Roman, nor an empire. Instead, each mini-state has its own government, but all are overseen by the Holy Roman Emperor. The Emperor is a figurehead, elected by 7 powerful princes and archbishops. For centuries, the role has been filled by a member of the Habsburg dynasty, Europe's dominant ruler of vast lands that include Spain and its overseas colonies. The emperors are staunch Catholics, but their Holy Roman Empire is as religiously split as the rest of the continent.
Of course, yeah.
Since a
Makes
treaty
sense.
of 1555, religious peace has held together under the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, whose realm, whose religion, meaning all subjects must follow the faith of their ruler. But it is unworkable to impose belief from above. Lutheran and Calvinist missionaries compete for converts. Many Catholics are ready to fight to reunify Christendom under the Pope. The Holy Roman Empire is a powder keg, primed to explode.
I mean, isn't it like the Holy Roman Empire is officially dissolved in like 200 years, right? By Francis, right? During the Napoleonic Wars, I believe. So I'm surprised that at this point it's still so strong. You know, as always, I always, I'm willing to admit I have massive gaps in history. You know, I never cared in school, and so it's only with YouTube videos that I've really been coming interested. So my knowledge of the Roman Empire kind of ends with the Byzantine Empire, I think. And I never really thought too much of what happens after that. I kind of thought, you know, it was technically still a thing, but also like, it's more like a title than really an empire by itself or something. But I guess not. At this point, it still seems to be a thing. Just 200 years from like dissolution. I would rather rule over a desert than a country of heretics, King of Bohemia Ferdinand.
The first sparks flare in Bohemia. The local nobility is religiously diverse and fiercely independent. Here,
the
Bohemian Hussites broke with Rome a century before
time to play Kingdom Come Again. Let's go.
The Reformation. But Bohemia is under the direct rule of King Ferdinand, a Habsburg and hardline Catholic.
Kingdom Come is like 100 years before, I think.
He cancels concessions, demolishes non-Catholic churches. These deliberate provocations anger Bohemia's nobles and reformers. In May 1618, they corner two of Ferdinand's ministers at Prague Castle, subject them to a summary trial, and throw them and their secretary from a high window. The two ministers survive the fall.
Lucky.
Catholic allies claim angels saved them.
Of course.
Protestant rebels say they landed in a dung heap. One thing is not in doubt. Bohemia is in open rebellion against imperial Catholic rule. The first act of violence in what will soon become the
epic history stuff is so good.
Europe has ever known. Ferdinand has powerful allies. Duke Maximilian of Bavaria, leader of the Empire's Catholic League. The Duke of Saxony, a Lutheran but whose loyalty has been secured with promises of land. And the might of Habsburg Spain, Europe's greatest power, unwilling to let upheaval in Germany threaten its supply road to the Netherlands. But this imperial faction immediately faces serious threats. The Bohemian rebels besiege Vienna, while a Transylvanian force, supported by the Emperor's bitterest enemy, the Ottoman Empire, invades
Secret
Hungary,
vampires.
torching villages, seizing food, laying waste to the land. The Ottomans hold back from committing their own troops to the invasion force. It's a potent what-if moment from European history, and exactly the sort of alternate history you can explore in Europa Universalis 5. Could you take advantage of the...
I've never played this kind of game, like Crusader King, Europa Universalis, what's the other one? Civilization, I think. I've never really tried them because they look way too complicated for me, but maybe it's just me thinking that, and they're not that deep. Well, not that hard for me, maybe, but I've never really tried them. Always looked from a distance, and my first thought is like, this is too complicated for me.
Blitz in Christendom to carve out a greater Ottoman Empire in Central Europe? Diplomatic as well as military means are available to you, and dynastic manipulation. In August 1619, emboldened by success on the battlefield, the Bohemians depose Ferdinand and replace him with one of their own, and crown him King Frederick. But in a plot twist, the Holy Roman Emperor dies, and Ferdinand is himself elected the new emperor that same month. The Bohemians' local revolt is now an act of treason against imperial authority. The tide begins to turn. Ferdinand enlists the help of Catholic Poland, which sends cavalry forces to harass the Transylvanians. They
So Poland is still a thing at this point. not conquered yet.
In November 1620, an elite Imperial and Catholic League force meets the ill-disciplined rebel army
White
at
Mountain.
White Mountain, outside Prague. The fighting is brief but bloody. In just over an hour, 1,000 Protestant soldiers are slaughtered.
650 to 2,800
Fledgling
killed or
Bohemian
captured.
independence movement appears to have been crushed. But the wider conflict is far from over. And soon, the flames of religious war will spread across the continent.
Well, man, I genuinely feel like I never really heard of this. I mean, I've heard of the conflict, right? I know the name, the 30-Year War, but I never knew it was such a big deal, right? We shall not fret until the princes and estate of the Holy Roman Empire of both one and the other religion shall live together, abiding peace. Christian force of Denmark, later to the Catholic prince, 1626.
After his victory at White Mountain, the uncompromising Emperor Ferdinand clamps down. Rebel ringleaders are arrested and executed. Severed heads are put on public display. In 1621, the Emperor's avenging forces descend on the Palatinate, the homelands of Bohemia's usurper king. That same year, a truce between Spain and the Dutch expires, and open conflict reignites.
Man,
It will soon blend into the wider European war between Catholics and Protestants. With Spanish help, Ferdinand's forces spent 3 years crushing all resistance. By the end of 1623, most of Western Germany is under Catholic League occupation. The mostly Protestant lords of northern Germany are alarmed by Catholic armies so close to their borders. In 1625, Christian, King of Denmark and Duke of German-Holstein, declares war on
good name, I
Ferdinand
guess, in this
and
context.
marches south, a preemptive strike to secure his hold over North Germany. Catholic League forces march north to confront the Danes and their allies. They are led by two brilliant commanders, Johann Tserclaes, Count of Tilly in the Spanish Netherlands, and Albrecht von Wallenstein, leader of Ferdinand's imperial
Haven't heard of them.
army in Bohemia. Wallenstein is a Bohemian Protestant, but also a notoriously ambitious mercenary commander.
I see.
Both men are heroes of the victory at White Mountain. For 3 years, the Catholic forces pushed
Ah man,
the
well,
Danes
this is good. You know, you can tell that this is one of those epic history video where like it's more like a summary or something, right? This isn't one of their in-depth series where, you know, they would actually go on to the battles and the details of the battles and all that. It already makes me kind of wish they did. I mean, I like their summary videos, kind of like the one about World War I, for example. But, you know, with their quality, you always want like a deeper series, right? Like they've done with Napoleon and, you know, the history of China recently. I don't know. I like this kind of broad videos, but it just makes you wish they would go into more details. That's always the thing. The greed of the viewer, right? I always want more, you know?
out of Germany, while Wallenstein occupies the Baltic coast. The Danish king has no hope of victory. In 1629, he surrenders to the Catholics. That same year, Ferdinand doubles down on Catholic supremacy by publishing the Edict of Restitution, a document that rolls back the spread of Protestantism since 1555. It is an inflammatory move.
Let me read it. 6th of March 1629, Ferdinand II issues edict under his authority of emperor, bypassing imperial legislative process, reinterprets Peace of Westphalia, 1555, in order to reverse the Protestant gain. New interpretation require Protestant to return 12 prince bishoprics and c. 500 monasteries to Catholic control. Edicts polarize religious division within the Holy Roman Empire, yeah. I mean, like, you're totally going back to your word and your deals. That makes sense, it would be not very popular.
Utterly unacceptable to Protestants. Even loyal Catholics are dismayed. The powerful princes who elect and support the emperor are known as the imperial electors. In 1630, they gather at Regensburg. They dismiss Wallenstein and reduce the army's size, hoping to de-escalate the conflict and contain Ferdinand's destructive instincts. But their measures go too far, leaving northern Germany virtually undefended. The timing could not be worse. A violent storm is brewing in the north, and soon it will descend to wreak a terrible, destructive path through their precious empire.
Oh wait, is it? No. I mean, as always, I'm you know, my piece of like knowledge about this story is all over the place. Is this the Lion from the North guy from the Sabaton songs? Sabaton has a few songs, I think, about like some Swedish ruler who, I think it was the 30-Year War, was pretty great or something, though I don't know the details, right? I don't want to hear about neutrality. This is a fight between God and the devil. Gustavus Adolphus to the elector at Brandenburg. Okay. This might be the guy from the Sabaton song.
Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden is a militant Lutheran who fears a Habsburg presence on the Baltic Sea. He sails south to Pomerania in July. He swiftly brings several North German states to his side, mostly under threat of force, and his numbers swell to almost 40,000. But one place allies with him willingly: the Protestant city of Magdeburg. The response of the Catholic and imperial forces, now all commanded by the Count of Tilly, is terrible. In May 1631, Tilly storms Magdeburg.
Oh boy.
Then, according to the city's mayor, the city was given over to murder, burning, plundering, torture, and beatings. Thousands of innocent men, women, and children were murdered and slaughtered in all sorts of merciless and wretched ways. By 10 o'clock that night, the entire city, along with its beautiful town hall and all its churches, lay in ashes.
Well then.
Over 20,000 are massacred, almost the entire population. The senseless slaughter is powerful propaganda for the Protestant cause.
Yeah.
Pamphlets and illustrated letters circulate, detailing the horrors and fueling a cycle of violent reprisal.
It's kind of like the thing that often happens, right? You try to do like a massive atrocity like this as an example for like other not to rise up, but on the other hand, it kind of like makes people even more mad, and it makes them even more like just fight rather than surrender because they know what's gonna happen, right? It reminds me of Napoleon in Egypt, right? When he massacres the prisoners that he has, right? You know, it just makes the enemy want to like not surrender and fight harder, right? It's just doesn't work.
Many Catholics will face a revenge called Magdeburg Mercy. The unluckiest of them are forced to sample the infamous Schwedentrunk, the Swedish drink.
Okay.
Victims have their mouths pried open and their stomachs filled with water, filth, and excrement, up to the point of bursting. Sweden's intervention unleashes the kaleidoscopic horrors of the 30 Years'
Kaleidoscopic horrors. That's the quote. Bellum seipsu malet. Cato dielder. War feeds itself.
17th century armies sweep like locusts across Europe. Most are mercenaries, paid in the plunder they seize from conquered lands. They strip entire regions bare before they move on. Most of these armies are ordered in the Spanish system.
I was actually wondering, like, this is before the line formations of musket warfares, right? I had no idea they actually fight here.
It is based around the tercio, a large square formation composed of pikemen and musketeers. They are supplemented by cavalry, used for scouting, harassment, or well-timed charges, and regiments of artillery.
Oh, yeah.
Together, muskets can be devastating, but individually they are inaccurate and slow to reload.
It's the same
Musketeers
200 years
are also
later, I guess.
vulnerable to fast-moving cavalry and require robust formations of pikemen to defend them. The Spanish system has dominated for a century, but recently things have begun to change. New Dutch-style infantry formations, called battalions,
formation, okay.
are smaller and less deep, with a
It's
larger
coming.
proportion of firearms. This makes them less durable, but also more flexible, mobile, and capable of firing denser, more deadly volleys. And there is a push to integrate artillery with the rest of the army. Gustavus Adolphus is an early adopter and perfects the new system. His aggressive and innovative tactics, with smaller units, more firearms, and light artillery integrated into every regiment, make his army dazzlingly quick, mobile, and lethal for its size. They also win him a reputation as the father of modern warfare, and praise from men like Karl von Clausewitz and Napoleon Bonaparte as one of the greatest military commanders of all time. In the summer of 1631, he seems
I'm pretty sure he's the guy from the Sabaton song, yeah. The Snow King will go on melting as he comes south. The heat will kill his army.
1631, the Swedish army of Gustavus Adolphus, bolstered by troops from Saxony, meets Count Tilly near a village called Breitenfeld. With nearly 40,000 on both sides, it is one of the largest battles of the 30 Years' War, and a clash between two of its most celebrated commanders. Tilly's cavalry charges the Swedish right. They are met with devastating fire, and are repulsed 8 times.
8 times.
At the other end of the line, Catholic cavalry routs the Saxons on Gustavus's left flank. But as Catholic forces advance, a gap opens up between them, which Gustavus exploits with a devastating counterattack. Tilly is caught flat-footed. His ranks dissolve and flee, leaving at least 7,000 dead on the field, with almost as many taken prisoner. The Swede and Saxon dead number just over 2,000.
That's a crazy ratio.
Breitenfeld is a crushing victory for Gustavus, and Tilly's first major defeat, a turning point that opens a pathway for the Swedes into the south. At Rain, Tilly tries to stop them, but fails, and the old Catholic general is mortally wounded.
Okay.
Emperor Ferdinand turns to an old ally, Wallenstein.
Oh.
In July 1632, Gustavus has moved north again, to Nuremberg. Wallenstein sets up camp nearby. Both sides struggle to find food, and are ravaged by starvation and disease. Wallenstein breaks camp to scour Saxony for supplies. Gustavus follows, and offers battle near the town of Lützen. He needs a quick fix.
It's funny because we see like a lot of this name, Dresden, Lützen, Magdeburg and all that. I also know from the Napoleonic Wars, right? Because a lot of the conflict also take place here, right? So, you know, it's like crazy to know that there was big battles here pretty often, I would say.
Victory before Wallenstein can be reinforced. But a thick fog spoils his plan. In the chaos, Gustavus leads a cavalry charge, loses his way in the fog, and is killed.
Damn. The weather, as always.
On paper, Lützen is another Swedish victory, but the king's death is a grievous blow. The Protestant cause reels from the loss of the Lion of the North,
Oh, here
one
we
of
go.
history's great military innovators and leaders.
Now I need to listen to the Sabaton song
If
again.
Gustavus Adolphus had walked away from Lützen, history may have been very different. And such mishaps and accidents are sometimes argued to be as important to history as its great structural forces, like culture and demography. Europa Universalis.
This is a weird way to do an ad, but I don't dislike it. Rather than like doing the, the ad segment in one go, like it's a little bit throughout the video, but like always when it's relevant, I guess. I don't mind it.
5 is a game in which you can reach for many levers to influence the destiny of your chosen nation-state. But the unexpected can still throw you off course, just as it did for the Kingdom of Sweden. In this
dying is
sophisticated
unexpected,
sandbox for creating alternate history, the test will be to see if you can weather such storms and push on to empire and lasting glory.
Again, this kind of game sounds very appealing, but I don't know if I would enjoy them. I really need to give them a try. Like, the game was like this that I've played, which is about like, historical time and, conquering the world as a king or something, is Mountain Blade, and it's very different, right? It's mostly like hack and slash, 3D game, right? There isn't that much strategy to it. Even though I absolutely love the game, I've played like over 1,000 hours of Mountain Blade. With mods and Warband and Viking Conquest and all that. Good stuff.
That winter, Swedish troops are mutinous and desperate. But Wallenstein holds back his forces in the east, near his own estates. In January 1634, Emperor Ferdinand learns Wallenstein has been negotiating his own separate peace. He is declared a traitor, cornered by imperial officers at his headquarters, and he too is killed.
Well,
it's the end of an era. 3 giants are dead: Tilly, Gustavus, and now Wallenstein.
where is that? This sharp.
The emperor turns his attention to the Swedish scourge. 33,000 imperial troops move into Bavaria. 26,000 Swedes meet them in pitched battle at Nördlingen.
Outnumbered.
Without their totemic leader, the Swedes stumble to disaster. They lose half their army, a potentially fatal blow.
Shouldn't have given
But
battle.
it draws a new player into the fight. France.
I don't know. We did? We joined? Okay. The interest of a state and the interest of religion are two entirely different things. Cardinal Richelieu.
(1635). War has raged for 17 years. Hundreds of German villages lie in ruins. Food shortages are chronic. Reports of cannibalism flourish. Besieged soldiers eating dead comrades. Women devouring their own children.
Man,
Years of pillaging, banditry, and warfare
the art is
forced
insane.
people everywhere into desperation and despair. The anti-imperial forces are in disarray. Emperor Ferdinand offers a way out. He swears to halt his assault on Protestantism. A general amnesty is proclaimed. Alliances with foreign powers forbidden.
Now you're saying that.
Princes flock to accept the terms. But the war does not end. A powerful new player will see to that.
Oh boy, what did we do?
Catholic, France is encircled by Habsburg domains. A grave strategic threat. Cardinal Richelieu, France's ruthlessly pragmatic chief minister, has bankrolled anti-Habsburg forces for years. He now commits to open conflict and declares war on Spain. But Richelieu immediately faces a crisis. The Rhine Valley is secured by France's German allies, but Spanish forces push into France from the north and east. They get within 70 miles of Paris before they are repelled. Meanwhile, the Swedish army is in a dismal state. unpaid, badly supplied, and mutinous. But
And
French
they don't have a great
money
leader.
and fresh reinforcements allow them to fight on. And then another bolt out of the blue. In February 1637, Ferdinand II, the man whose intransigence threw Europe into war, dies aged 58. His son and successor, Ferdinand III, is capable, level-headed.
I always kind of hate when that happens, right? I mean, I'm sure that people do, right? It's kind of like Franz Joseph, right? The guy who starts the Austria Empire ruler that starts World War One, you know, dying before facing consequences. And obviously World War One is much more complicated in terms of like who's responsible per se, but you know what I mean? Like this ruler who gambled with the life of millions and all that and died before finishing it and seeing any consequences from it. I don't know. And you might say like this guy did see consequences, like, you know, the land is destroyed, people are dying, cannibalism and all that, but he's a rich folk. I mean, you know, like he was in his palace eating his rich food and, you know, banging his mistress and, you know, like I don't think he was facing much consequences from, you know, starting this madness.
And more flexible. But he lacks his father's ruthlessness and is caught off guard by renewed Swedish energy. Johan Barner, the aggressive Swedish commander-in-chief, conducts a series of audacious campaigns and wins upset
So they got someone
victories
nice, okay.
at Wittstock and Chemnitz. But his supply lines cannot support a sustained advance, and each time he is forced to withdraw. Then he too dies of illness in May 1641.
Well,
The following year, his successors once again meet the Imperials at Breitenfeld and win another crushing victory.
they're doing great.
The Swedes entrench themselves in Saxony, near the Habsburg heartlands. 1643 will prove a pivotal year. In May, 21-year-old Louis de Bourbon, Duke of Enghien, smashes a Spanish army.
The bloody
at
Bourbon.
Rocroi. It is one of France's greatest military victories and secures its northern border from the Spanish threat. The French then move into southern Germany, but their advance grinds to a halt at Tuttlingen, thanks to the efforts of the steely Bavarian command.
7,000 killer captured to 1,000. You know, I was gonna say like, kind of lucky that the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth didn't join more of this madness. I mean, I don't know if they had like massive amounts of troop or anything, but they are a big country and they are right next to all of this. Yeah, they helped at the beginning, but they kind of stay back, I guess.
Under Franz von Mercy. That same autumn, France's uneasy alliance with the Swedes faces crisis as the Swedish army marches north to invade Denmark. It is an opportunistic land grab by the government in Stockholm, spurred on by a more hopeful development. Peace talks have begun in the Westphalian towns of Osnabrück and Münster. Everyone wants peace, but all seek a strong bargaining position, ensuring talks and the war will drag on for 5 more years.
That's often what it is, right? They want like one massive victory before the peace talks, so they are the one in control. Which means you just keep going, yeah.
Southwestern Germany is ripped apart by clashing armies, until Mercy is killed at Allerheim, along with 9,000 other casualties. The road to Bavaria lies open, but the French can't take full advantage. Victory has crippled their army.
There's no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare since the art of war. What a bloody relevant thing, you know, like this is the 30-year war, but there was the 100-year war before that and all that. And he mentioned like an 80-year war earlier in the video. Yeah. I mean, as fucked up as it is, you know, some wars have been very beneficial for some countries, right? But yeah, like, you know, lightning wars and stuff like that. Like, when it goes on to even more than a year, you're not really benefiting, right?
1645. The Swedes have returned to Saxony. Pushing south, they almost reach Vienna. But with too few men to take the city, they swing north to loot Moravia and fall back. By 1646, the French have regathered their strength and march against Bavaria.
Leipzig.
A Swedish force joins them and maneuvers past Emperor Ferdinand's main army, leaving Bavaria virtually undefended. To save his duchy, Bavaria's Duke Maximilian, one of the few leaders in place since 1618, offers peace, only to rejoin the war a few months later. The French and Swedes have had enough and decide on a joint decisive blow. In May 1648, the last imperial field army is shattered at Zumarshausen. The remnants fall back into the far south, leaving Bavaria's countryside exposed to plunder, pillaging, and wanton violence. While the remains of the Bavarian and imperial armies hold up a desperate defense, a separate Swedish force marches south from Saxony and reaches Prague. In a twist of fate, they capture Jaroslav Borgita, one of the men thrown from the castle window 30 years before.
Okay.
But the Swedes can't take the city. Both sides are exhausted, down to their last reserves of stores and energy. Then, in early November, momentous news arrives. Peace.
For real?
After 5 years of discussion in Westphalia, conditions have finally been set. The terms: Dutch independence from Spain, along with that of Switzerland, one of few imperial realms that has managed to stay neutral in the war. Greater religious tolerance in Germany.
That's where it all started, yeah.
No forced conversion of subjects, except in the lands under direct Habsburg rule.
Oh, except, okay.
And territorial concessions to the major anti-Habsburg powers. France receives Alsace, while Sweden gains Western Pomerania and 3 important German ports. After 30 years of war, it is a peace everyone can live with.
Except the dead, which are dead. But we see. What a fucking mess. They say the terrible war is now over, but it still doesn't feel like peace. Everywhere there is jealousy, hate and worse things. The war has taught us such. Scrabbled in Family Bible, Gerset and Germany. I mean, yeah, can you imagine, right? 30 years of war, like many generations have literally like grown up in this climate where, you know, because it is war, all you know is like this country is your enemy. People of this religion are your enemy. It all started because of them or something. Like, it's fucking generations haven't been, you know, living and taught that, you know? So, yeah, you know, I mean, war already changed people in just a few years, right? I mean, both World War I and II were like, you know, 4-5 years. So 30-year war, even though like war of this time were different, right? You know, World War I and II, they were literally like non-stop. Like every week there was like, you know, like dozens of thousands of casualties, right? There were like constant battles. The difference with like older wars, I think, you know, this was a 30-year war, but while there was, I'm sure, like a lot of individual killings here and there, the battles were like very spread out. Sometimes there was like one major battle a year at least. But nonetheless, I can only imagine, like, you know, just being a normal person at this time. Yeah, I mean, the war is over, but that doesn't mean much, right? Like, I expect it's gonna start again very soon, be it for like religious or like pride reason or like land reason, you know? How would you ever believe it's over?
The 30 Years' War was a disaster unprecedented in Europe's history. A local revolt over religious rights that reignited ancient rivalries and fed on personal ambitions until nearly all Europe found itself at war. An estimated 5 to 8 million died.
That is
Most
crazy.
from famine and disease.
I didn't think it was that
The
much.
hardest hit areas lost nearly 2/3 of their inhabitants. 1/5 of all Germans perished, a much larger share than in either World War.
Yeah, though we see like much more massive population later on. That's the difference, right? Which makes it even more insane here, yeah, because like, yeah, that's 1/5 of the population. That's just insane.
Even after the Peace of Westphalia, Spain and France fought on for 11 more years. The Holy Roman Empire,
It
though
would happen again, though.
survived for about another 150 years. Finally dissolved in 1806 during the Napoleonic Wars.
That's right, yeah.
The Treaty of Westphalia is often viewed as a turning point in world history. The first modern secular international peace conference, and a major step toward the rise of Europe's
How long
nation
did it
states.
last?
Historians continue to debate Westphalia's importance, but one thing is not in doubt. The 30 Years' War cast a long and terrible shadow. For 300 years, it remained a terrifying, cautionary tale of how one small act of violent resistance might spiral into a senselessly destructive total war.
And yet we didn't have
A
enough with this
warning
one.
that was, ultimately, unheeded.
Right, and not even just fucking once, I mean. I don't know if I'm missing conflict, but Napoleonic Wars, World War I, World War II, like 3 more times. And every time, like, the scale was, like, many times bigger and many times bigger every time. I mean, you know, lessons are just not learned, but at the same time, I guess it's the thing about, you know, like, by the time of the Napoleonic Wars, right, you know, it's already been, like, 150 years or so. You just read what happened, but you're like, yeah, I mean, that seems pretty bad, but, you know, it's a different time or something. And then you just let it happen again, right? I think that's the thing. That's kind of like right now, I often think about that, you know, it wouldn't be that crazy, you know, by the end of this century that we're going to have another like massive, terrible conflict, world conflict, because, you know, it will have been enough time that basically all the people, I mean, we're almost there right now, all the people who actually like lived right in or after World War II, I guess World War I, it's already passed, they're all dead. World War II will be gone, and so it will only be in textbook and, you know, history stuff that people will remember like the horrors of that. And I think that doesn't have like the same kind of what's the word for it, like the same kind of impact as like people who've actually been there and keep telling you of what happened directly and why we shouldn't do this again. So, you know, it's not an optimistic way to look at things, but I kind of feel like it's just bound to happen again, right? We're never gonna learn, you know? We're never gonna learn. I mean, I say we, but it's the leaders, right? It's the fucking leaders of countries and all that. I mean, they don't care, you know? Like the one that should know as much about the story as possible, know barely, right? And then we do it again. Yeah. Anyway, super interesting video. Now it kind of makes me want to watch some even more in-depth series about this. Like, again, I kind of want to know more of the in-between details of everything. This was a great summary, I feel like, but I'm sure there's more about this, right? It's a 30-year war after all. So yeah, insanely interesting, and as always, I can't wait for more epic history. I think they have more Rise of China coming, and stuff like that. So yeah, really good stuff. Highly enjoyed it. You know, I always try to keep reacting to some of the epic history stuff. I know I'd missed some videos like the rise of Christianity and Islam, and then the World War II spying videos that they made. Maybe I'll check them out eventually. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, that was a good one.